Welcome to Pardon Me If You Can TV. What have you got for us, Lloyd?
Today's film is simply Irresistible, starring Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Pardon Me If You Can, movie reviews.
Restaurant owner Amanda Shelton, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, is falling in love with hard-driving executive Tom Bartlett, played by Sean Patrick Flannery. Unfortunately, Tom is too busy to recognize that she's truly the girl of his dreams. Amanda, seemingly by accident, acquires magical abilities and puts spells on a food that acts like an aphrodisiac. There is also an element where her emotions are transferred to the food, and anyone who tastes the food feels what she feels. Now, I think the mythical Cupid has, is helping out Sarah Michelle Gellar and is responsible for her sudden magical powers. At the beginning of the film, we discover that a restaurant is going out of business and her mother has recently passed away. And I think she has spiritually come back as this crab that crawls around the kitchen, making sure she's cooking the food right. And all of a sudden, Sarah Michelle Gellar's got these magical abilities, like she can cook meals really awesomely, and they have this a magical effect on anyone who eats the food. On our podcast, Dave and I have discussed in great detail the magical feather strategy that Disney often employs in their films, where characters are given these amazing opportunities and overcome whatever obstacle that's presented to them, and they haven't really earned their goals or, worked hard at achieving them. And that strategy is very apparent here. There is like a godlike character at the beginning of the film who Sarah Michelle Gellar meets at the food market, and I want to say this guy frames the narrative because he appears a couple of times in the film, but it's like the editor or writer abandoned the idea halfway. It's never really explained, and I don't know. I just don't get it. I think he's supposed to be Cupid. Now, I don't know anything about Sarah Michelle Gellar. I've seen 1.5 Buffy episodes, and I've also seen, of course, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think she's really likable and very pretty, but this is not a good showcase for her at all. In fact, I think this film is terrible. The crab they have in this movie that I think is supposed to be spiritually her mother is really, really terrible. Like, you can clearly see the strings on the crab when it's moving around. Like, it's like the editor was just looking at the film, in the editing room. How can you miss these strings? They're just going, screw it, no one's going to watch this. Or they simply ran out of money to hire a compositor to hide the strings. It's really weird. The main romantic element between the two leads is where this whole film just doesn't work. Sean Patrick Flannery is so unlikable. Why would a girl like Sarah Michelle Gellar fall in love with the guy? Like, yes, he's got the looks and he's got the money, but he's just so awful. Like, he's very corporate, very boring, and very mean as well. There is an implication that Sarah Michelle Gellar might be simply under Cupid's spell and she's simply fallen in love with the guy, but I don't think the film is smart enough to suggest this. All the scenes where characters eat food and they start falling into ecstasy is just really stupid. I just couldn't go with it. There is lots of nods to 30s musicals as well, with like decent set pieces and decent dance sequences, but because the romantic element was so poorly constructed, I just couldn't go with it. Although, like, the homage and having Sarah Michelle Gellar as the main star might charm some viewers. Apparently, this is a very rare DVD to get, and I could see why, Dave. They tried to do what Atari did with their E.T. game, and that's bury it.
Oh dear. I think Sean Patrick Flannery is so underrated. He's in Boondock Saints. He's in this little film called Girl, I think it is, that I quite enjoyed. And he's a very likable guy. It's a shame he's so unlikable here.
I get the impression no one liked doing this movie. Like, everyone was pulling a favor for somebody and in it. Like, I don't know. There was just something about both their performances that just didn't work. Like, there was maybe they just didn't get along on set, Sarah Michelle Gellar and Patrick Flannery. But that's the impression I got. I read a lot of reviews on IMDb and a lot of people were charmed with this film. They were really taken away, but I just couldn't go with it. Bah humbug, Dave.
Is there any visual magic special effects on screen?
There's a little bit, like they're floating and then smoke suddenly appears, so I appreciate that practical effects, but there isn't really that much of a visual effect style to it, so I guess that's kind of a positive.
Alrighty, you can find more reviews from us at our YouTube channel and our podcast at www.podmeifyoucan.com.
Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Check out our podcast at www.podmeifyoucan.com.